Welcome to the Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership Podcast. Subscribe now so you don't miss a drop of straight talk you can't get anywhere else. We discuss the whiskeys to drink, music to listen to, and what it really takes to be an effective leader. I'm your host, Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist. Tonight's guest, country music artist, Carl Ray. Hey, what you drinking? Okay, so we're going to break a whole lot of rules here. We're going to break a whole lot of customs and things that you may have grown accustomed to with this podcast. But trust me, you're going to be okay. I'm going to take really, really good care of you as we go down this road. Because I know that the name of the podcast is Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. And, I feel like we've been doing a pretty good job with all three. But we're gonna compromise this, and for a moment, we're gonna change the name of the podcast to Whiskey, Country, and Leadership, and that's for very good reason. Because I've got the privilege of checking off one of my dream list guests that I've actually got with me today, and that is none other than country music sensation Carl Ray. Carl Ray, what's going on, man?
What's up, babe? What's going on, man? What's happening? Man, you look great.
Oh, man. Hey, man, I don't have that country music swag like you got over there, man. But we're gonna get into that conversation because folks think that I'm just playing around when I say that these are just, all of my guests are just friends I have that haven't blocked my calls yet. So we're gonna get into that conversation and much, much more. But I got a really, really important question that my guests have come to expect. My listeners are waiting because they know that that's when things really get started. So let's go ahead and kick this conversation off with this question. So what you drinking?
Man, first of all, I'm drinking something that you can't see, and that's called motivation, inspiration, all of those things that are intangible that we should be drinking in the spirit, because we're mind, body, and soul. We are human beings, but we're spiritual beings having these earthly encounters. So I'm drinking from a fountain. But because I work for the great company Coca-Cola, I always fell in love with Coca-Cola. And I'm drinking Coke Zero. That's my dog right now. So I'm drinking Coke, but I do have some great whiskey stories, especially around country music.
All right, man. Well, hey, you can't go wrong with the beverage that brought us together. Well, I'll tell you another beverage that's in the whiskey realm, because I got to stay with the integrity of the podcast. And usually, whenever you ask for a whiskey and a Coke, that whiskey happens to be a Jack and Coke, right? It's just, there's other soft drinks that usually try to mix with whiskey and Jack, and it just doesn't sound right. So since you're going to do the Coke, I'm going to do the Jack. And because I don't have the regular number 7 Tennessee on my shelf right now, I looked and couldn't find it, but I do have this Jack Daniel's single barrel proof. And this is gold label. And I was wondering why I still had some of this on my shelf, because I actually got this when I went to Lynchburg and went through the Jack Daniel's distillery tour. And I was just curious why I still had some of this left. And then I looked, and this is clocking it at 132.7 proof. So this is not far away from lighter fluid. So that's probably why.
Keep the matches away, brother.
But I'm going to do this because, you're going to do the Coke. I got to do the Jack. So we're going to do a little bit of this. Hold on. Let's go ahead and crack this open. And, man, I can smell the juice just from coming out the bottle from here.
I smell it on my end.
Go pour some. And that's about all I can handle at 132.7. And we're going to just take a little taste here. Oh my gosh. And see the problem that I have with this, and this is literally why. This is 132.7, but it doesn't drink like it. You know, if it drank like 132.7, then I'd be more measured. But man, this is so smooth. You can get carried away if you're not careful.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the first time I had whiskey. I used to play in this band. It was called the Supernaturals, and we were known for these big afros we had, and we would open these concerts for the Spinners and Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes back in the day. We were really good. We started working with a guy named Willie Hutch, who was best known for writing the song "I'll Be There" for the Jackson Five, and he had scored the movie The Mac, and he came down to record us. We had this production deal with Motown going, and we were singing all night long. And we just got to the point where we had no fuel. And he just walked in. He had all these little paper cups, and he was pouring stuff in, and we didn't know what it was at the time. And he said, "Just drink this for a minute. Just drink this and just relax." And we drank that whiskey. And he said, "There's nothing that good whiskey can't solve. So just take a deep breath. Let's go back at it." And we hit it.
All right. I'll tell you, there's wisdom in that. There's wisdom in that. Well, hey, man, let me drink on this a little bit, and I want you to share just a little bit about your background because we've connected in a couple of different places, and people know who know my history know that I've spent 30 years in corporate America, but 22 of those years were with the Coca-Cola company. And when I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, peace up to Bob Taylor, Mr. Bobby T, he asked me if I knew you, and I said, "Did I know you? You were literally the first person I ever met within the Coca-Cola company." And I don't know if you remember this, but I walked in, was getting ready to go in for my interview. And before I walked in, they said, you know, you're going to go through these doors. And before I go in, I said, well, let me head to the restroom, just kind of make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. And I walked in and was just in the mirror trying to make sure that all the hairs were laying down. And this brother walks in. He was clean. Everything was put together. And he said, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "Yeah, getting ready to go in for an interview." He goes, "Oh, well, good luck." And I walked in, sat down, and here comes Carl Ray, already working for the company. And you just kind of gave me that eye, that little side thumbs up. And 22 years later, man, I tell you, it was a great experience. But it all started with that sly little thumbs up from you literally on the day that I had my interview. So that's kind of my connection to you. But talk a little bit about your history, your journey, and how you got to where you are, because it's not necessarily the story that I would have anticipated hearing when I ran into you in the restroom.
Yeah, I tell you, first of all, I'm always humbled to even share any story with anybody. So thank you so much for having me on your show today, and I'm just excited for you and what tomorrow holds for you and what you're trying to accomplish. I as a young person back in Houston, which is where I grew up, I played basketball, did all the things that young boys did, chased girls, cursed a lot, skipped school. I did some things maybe other people wouldn't do, but I did normal things. And I was playing basketball, and I was pretty good at basketball. I was a guard, but I loved music. I loved music. And during that time, there was this group called Archie Bells and the Drells, and it was a local group that we just fell in love with. They had some friends of theirs that were looking to build a group. And so they came to me and said, "Hey, we think you can sing and we know you can dance. We want you to be part of this group." And I remember just being so excited. And so I went back to my coach, high school coach, and my junior high school coach, and I said, "Listen, I'm quitting the basketball team." "What do you mean you're quitting? You're a star guard." "Yeah, I'm quitting because I want to do music." "You want to do what? You want to play music? You want to do music?" I don't understand. They tried to keep me on the team, but for whatever reason, I just decided that, I was a short fella back then. It wasn't many Spud Webbs. And I decided to just go about my journey with music. And joined this group called Supernaturals, and we became a local phenomenal, opening up for a lot of major artists, the Ohio Players at the time, the Spinners, Harold Miller, Blue Notes, BB King. The list just goes on. So whenever people would come to town, we would be the guys that they would call. We were similar to a Jackson 5, if you will, but we had a little more grown up music back then. And so I just began singing, traveling, singing. I really was making more money than my parents were. So I decided I'm going to do music forever. Well, things changed. Teammates or my people in the group decided to have children, and life circumstances start impacting them. And I decided that I really needed to go to school because I didn't want to keep living on the road, didn't want to keep staying with this person, staying in that whole life of a musician. I just didn't want that forever. So, part of leadership is envisioning where you want to go and seeing what you want to be different down the road. And I would talk to my friends, and they would say, "Man, we're going to go play over here with Harold Melvin. We're going to go do this. Come on, go with us." I said, "No, man, I'm going to class. I got to study. I got to make some adjustments." So I made those adjustments, and along the way, I met this guy named Johnny Nash Galen. And Johnny was most known for "I Can See Clearly Now the Rain Is Gone." So that was his thing. And then Steer It Up. He'd worked with Bob Marley, introduced to Bob Marley. Shout out to Bob and John, who've gone on to another place. But John saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And he said, "You know what? Here's the key to my studio. I'm going to teach you how to play guitar. I'm going to help you learn the art of songwriting, and I'm going to help you understand this music business. And if you would commit yourself, I'm going to start recording some of your songs. I'm going to have you playing your songs in front of some of my friends." And he did that. So I played in front of Roberta Flack, Peebo Bryson, Lionel Richie. It goes on and on. As a young person, I'm writing songs and playing my songs, pitching, hoping these artists would record them. That was my journey. Fast forward, Johnny said, "You're writing more country songs. You know what? You need to start pitching those songs to Nashville. So you need to start going to Nashville." And that's what I did. When I got there, I really learned some hard lessons. I learned that I thought I was a great writer, but I really wasn't that good. I had some real deficiencies when it came to writing songs. Country music is three chords and the truth. And so getting to the truth is really what's hard, because some people don't want to dig enough and reveal the truth to the world because they feel like it's going to make them feel bad. They're going to be embarrassed. But really, those are the hard things and the pure things. That's the purity of the message that can change or inspire lives. So I started on that journey. And since then, I've had some successes. I made a little money. I've had some number ones. I've performed with a lot of people. And more importantly, I've helped the next generation of artists, because that's really what it's about. We don't take anything with us. The question is, what are you going to leave behind? And if you're not giving back, then you're really not living at the end of the day. You have to give something back. You said something to me once that kind of stayed with me. And I don't know if you remember this, but you said to me, and I'm going to paraphrase this and I hope I get this right. And you correct me if it's not, but you said something to the regard, when I was younger, I wanted to be king, right? But now that I'm older, I want to help others become kings and queens. Is that right?
You got it, man.
Right?
You got it.
And I think when I heard you say that, that kind of like nailed it, because that's where I think at some point we all have to be, if we truly care about what we have been given, the keys. We've been given these keys. Who are we going to give those keys to, right? So, and along the way, I got a job after graduating from college and went to work with the Coca-Cola Company. And I did multiple things and ran on-premise business for Coke in East Tennessee. And as an on-premise director, did a lot of things, participated in several of your training classes at Coke. Yeah. And that was always a treat, because I got a chance to see you back then and I see you now. And I see the connections. And that's what's powerful about the journey of people that you're in connection with. You could see where they are and where they've been. And so it's just an honor to sit here And to know that 22 years ago in a restroom, we met, but now we're sitting at this table
Mm,
still together after all these years. So those are the things that I take joy in and solace in. And these are moments like this. I wrote a song called Moments Like, don't let me
mm.
miss moments like this. So I don't want to miss any moments where I interact again with people who impacted my life or I impacted. It's off the chain, man. It's off the chain.
Ah, fantastic, man. I want to get right to this question because we could chew up so much of the time just catching up. Because literally, you're one of the people that I think about when I think about this definition of whiskey, jazz, and leadership. So for me, I like all three literally. I love whiskey. I think last count, I've got like 85 bottles of whiskey. 80 of them are open, and those other five, their time is coming. They just haven't made the rotation yet. Jazz. I love jazz. My life changed when I went to hang out with a buddy, and he had Miles Davis kind of blue playing in the background, and we almost forgot to go play basketball because I was just so transfixed. So I love jazz literally. And leadership has been my thing for a bit. Every success and every failure begins and ends with leadership, point blank. But I also love the metaphor. And so this is what I want you to comment on, because for me, the metaphor of whiskey is doing what you enjoy with the folks who are like-minded and enjoy it with you, irregardless of what the other folks might think about what you're doing, because they're not in your crew anyway, right? The metaphor of jazz is, how do you get from where you are to where you are destined to be, even when the road is not clear? The only thing that I know for sure is that no plan will go according to plan. You still have to get there. And that, for me, that's the metaphor of jazz. And the metaphor of leadership is really about action. We can talk about what we're going to do someday. We can build a marketing plan. We can build a business plan. We can strategize. But until someone says today is that day and we're taking that first step now, then nothing's ever really going to happen. We're going to always talk about doing it someday. And so for me, that's how this metaphor fits together. I just want to check in with you. How does that metaphor fit with you, the success that you've had and the success that you're having now?
That's a great question. And I tell you, when I think about whiskey, lately I've been thinking about the song Tennessee Whiskey. But for me, it's all about country music. And when you talk about country music, a lot of, especially my brothers and sisters, African Americans, they know some of the country artists like Charlie Pride. They'll throw that out. They'll throw out Darius Rucker, right? But they don't know that there's Carl Ray's Black Country Music Radio playlist with over 1,200 songs on Spotify, all music by Black people singing it. So you have this catalog of music treasure chest that's out there. And so for me, it is about the talent that God has given me. I have a passion for writing. I only start singing music because if people started asking me to come, hey, would you come and sing this song or do this? And then they would write me a check, right? But my passion is the songwriter. So I'm a fan of the songwriter because there's a journey that you take when you write songs. And so not only am I a fan of the songwriter, but I've also said to myself, I'm gonna also be an example for others to come behind me, if you will. I'm gonna spend the money. I'm gonna make the mark that can't be erased, right? And so through that, you start meeting people who believe also in your potential in country music. And I'll tell you, I've had some phenomenal experiences from even singing next to the Ku Klux Klan. And I remember these two boys owned this. I don't remember exactly where it was, but it was a garage sale little place. And I went in and I saw this guitar and it was hanging up, and it was a shoddy guitar. And I asked them, could I see the guitar? And they said, well, we're closing. And I said, I may want to buy that guitar. He said, well, you probably can't even play it, boy. So, but for me, that doesn't upset me because the Bible says that your gift will make room for you. It won't make room for you to be a star all the time, but it will make room for you to bridge relationships, to share something that will inspire or change a life. So I remember picking up that little guitar, and it was out of tune. and I played Your Cheating Heart. They just sat there. And then one of them pulled out a banjo. And before I knew it, we were playing country music. And when I left there, we were all good. Now, I don't know if they still have their biases, but for a moment in time, the music opened up the door that we can show each other that we are really the same, and so that's the power of music. And they had no idea that I knew any country songs. And many of them I didn't play for them, but I just said, hey, I know this, and they were just baffled. So whiskey and country music is about not only the writing of great music, but how do you also inspire people, right? Because if the music is not inspiring, if you don't have anything to say, come on. I mean, you got this podcast, this great vehicle that you're using your gifts for, but what do you say, right? And you have the ear of people. When you have the ear of listeners, that's a humbling place to be, and it's awesome, So for me, country music, whiskey, the journey of it, my crew, they live in the trailer home, sometimes in Appalachian Mountains, in Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. They don't look like me. Some of them brew moonshine. They don't drink whiskey, they brew moonshine. And some of them have been on their land for, their fathers have passed down land to them. They've been sitting on that land and they're not going anywhere. And some of them never have played with a black guy. And I go into their trailer homes. I break bread with them, and I become the guy that if something were to go down with me somewhere, they'll stand in front and say, hey, back up. You're not messing with Carl Ray.
Wow.
And I would do the same. So those are my crew. And they play fiddles, steel guitar, banjos, mandolins, upright basses, steel guitars, and they're some of the most phenomenal musicians you'll ever find. And in this industry, like any other industry, it's a small community. So out of that, I've been able to record. I have a record now that's going to probably go to number one. It's a Christian version of the Old Rugged Cross bluegrass. But I recorded it with a lady by the name of Rhonda Vincent. And Rhonda is the queen of bluegrass. When you look up Rhonda Vincent and think bluegrass, she's the lady. So those are the kind of relationships I've formed. And then lastly, I've learned that, and Johnny Nash taught me this. He said, Carl, you don't always have to be the best. He said, but you do have to be liked, and you have to have talent. He said, but sometimes it's about favor. And so I've got a lot of favor, and people call me because thank God I have favor with them. Wow. And they have favor with me.
Hey, it's not too late. Hit that subscribe button so you're sure to catch the next episode. If you're really enjoying the vibe, leave us a review or become a VIP for guest and show exclusives. Cheers.